We're seeing a weirdly specific wave of older vulnerabilities hitting the NVD database today, mostly SQL injections in web apps you might have forgotten you're even running. If you've got legacy e-commerce or CMS tools sitting on the edge, you need to listen up.
I'm Morgan, that's Alex. Let's break it down.
So, we've got a cluster of high-severity flaws that just went public, and they all share a common theme: SQL injection. The first one is CVE 2021-47909. And yeah, that's a 2021 ID, but it just hit the NVD database. It's affecting Mult-E-Cart Ultimate version 2.4.
Wait, 2021? That's what, 4 years ago? Why are we just hearing about this now? Is this that disclosure queue issue we keep seeing?
Exactly. This one's been in the disclosure queue for a while. Sometimes it takes years for these to get officially processed and cataloged, even if the vendor knew about it. But the risk is still very real if you're still running that version. We're talking about multiple injection points in the inventory, customer, and vendor modules.
And Mult-E-Cart, that's a shopping cart platform, right? If an attacker gets into the customer or order modules via SQL injection, they aren't just breaking the site. They're potentially looking at the entire database of customer info.
Right. The data says remote attackers with privileged vendor or admin roles can exploit the ID parameter. Now, you might think, oh, they need a login, so it's fine. But if an attacker phishes a vendor or finds a low-level credential, they can use this to escalate and basically own the database management system.
It's that classic stepping stone attack. Get a foot in the door with a weak password, then use the SQL injection to take over the whole house. And it's not just the e-commerce side. You mentioned a couple of others, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a theme today. We have CVE 2021-47915, which is hitting PHP Melody version 3.0. This one is in the video edit module. Again, it's an authenticated SQL injection where they can exploit an unvalidated vid parameter to run arbitrary queries.
PHP Melody, that's a video sharing script. I feel like these legacy CMS and niche scripts are the forgotten corners of the internet. People install them for a specific project. The project ends, but the server stays live and unpatched for years.
That's exactly the danger. And to round out the 2021 flashback trio, we have CVE 2021-47916. This one is in Simple CMS version 2.1. Same story. Privileged attackers can inject unfiltered SQL commands through the admin.php file.
It's almost nostalgic, isn't it? SQL injection in an admin file. It's like we're back in 2010, except it's 2025 and these things are still sitting in the NVD queue. I guess the takeaway here is if you're using any of these, Mult-E-Cart, PHP Melody, or Simple CMS, you really need to check your version numbers, even if you haven't touched the site in years.
Exactly. Don't let the 2021 date fool you. This is fresh intel for the scanners and the automated exploit kits. If it's just hitting the database now, you can bet the bad guys are adding it to their to-do lists today.
Speaking of things that stay around longer than they should, let's talk about databases that are just sitting out there in the open. Bleeping Computer is reporting that exposed MongoDB instances are being hit by automated extortion attacks again.
This never seems to go away. It's the same playbook we've seen for years. A threat actor scans the internet for MongoDB databases that don't have a password, which, believe it or not, is still a thing, and then they run a script that wipes the data and leaves a ransom note.
Wait, didn't we see this with the Meow attacks a few years back, where they weren't even asking for money, they were just deleting data for the hell of it? This one sounds slightly more professional, if you can call it that. They're asking for low ransoms to restore the data.
Right, but here's the kicker. There's almost zero evidence they actually back up the data before deleting it. They just drop the tables, create a new one called warning or ransom, and leave an email address. If you pay, you're likely just giving money to a guy who already deleted your business.
It's pure laziness on the admin side, but also pure cruelty on the attacker side. It's a reminder that low ransom doesn't mean low risk. If your MongoDB is exposed, you're not just risking a leak, you're risking total data loss.
Exactly. Check your firewall rules. If that database doesn't need to be public-facing, and it almost never does, get it behind a VPN, or at least bind it to localhost.
Let's shift gears to something a bit more modern. Apple is actually doing something pretty cool for privacy on iPhones and iPads. They're introducing a feature that limits how precisely cellular networks can track your location.
This is interesting because it's not about GPS. Usually, when we talk about location privacy, we're talking about apps asking for permission to use your GPS coordinates. This is lower level. It's about the cellular radio itself.
Right, because even if you turn off GPS, your phone is constantly talking to cell towers. The carriers know exactly which tower you're connected to, and they can triangulate you pretty accurately. Apple's new feature basically tells the phone to stop giving the network such precise data, unless it's for something like an emergency call.
It's a big move. We've seen reports for years about carriers selling that location data to third-party brokers who then sell it to, well, anyone with a checkbook. By limiting that precision at the hardware/OS level, Apple is cutting off a major source of shadow tracking.
I love that. It's one of those things where the user doesn't have to do much, but the privacy gain is huge. Speaking of big tech moves, OpenAI is making some waves today, and not everyone is going to be happy about it. They're officially starting to roll out ads in ChatGPT.
The era of the free lunch is ending. They've confirmed they're testing ads for free users and even some paid accounts. We're seeing early signs of this on the Android app already.
And they're saying we can trust the answers, even with ads involved. I've heard that one before. Remember when Google search results were clearly separated from ads? Now it's all a bit of a blur. If I ask ChatGPT for the best security software, and the first answer is a sponsored suggestion, does that change the utility of the tool?
It definitely changes the trust model. If the AI is being incentivized to steer you toward a product, it's no longer a neutral assistant. It's a salesperson. And that's not the only big change at OpenAI. They're also retiring some of their most famous models.
Yeah, GPT-4o is being put out to pasture, along with GPT-5 Instant and a few others. They're saying GPT 5.2 is good enough to replace them all. It feels like the life cycle of these models is getting shorter and shorter.
It's a challenge for developers. If you've built a workflow or a security tool that relies on the specific behavior of GPT-4o, and suddenly that model is gone, you're forced to migrate to 5.2 and hope the reasoning hasn't shifted in a way that breaks your logic.
It's the move fast and break things mentality applied to the very brains of our new tech stack. Between the ads and the model churn, OpenAI is definitely signaling that the experimental phase is over and the monetization and efficiency phase is here.
Which means, as security pros, we have to be even more careful about what data we're feeding these models and how much we trust their output, especially if that output might soon be sponsored.
All right, before we wrap up, what's the priority for today? Those 2021 CVEs?
Definitely. If you're running Mult-E-Cart, PHP Melody, or Simple CMS, check your versions. Specifically, look out for CVE 2021-47909, CVE 2021-47915, and CVE 2021-47916. These are oldies but goodies for attackers, and they're officially on the radar now. Patch them or pull them offline.
Your daily AI-powered security briefing. If this saved you time, subscribe. We're here every morning.
Stay patched, stay paranoid.